Hello, everyone. My name is Ruby Ramirez, and I will explain the topic about servant leadership. What is a servant leadership? Well, a servant leadership is an extension or variation of the people-oriented leadership. These people-oriented leaders are the people who show interest in others as people, listen to employees, make the workplace more pleasant, and show appreciation to employees for their performance contribution, and they are considerate of employee needs. In particular, servant leaders assist others in their need fulfillment, personal development, and growth. Servant leaders ask, for example, how can I help you? Rather than expect that the employee is always to serve them and to make what he or she wants that they need to do. The main objective of servant leadership is to help followers and other stakeholders fulfill their needs and potential, particularly to become healthier, wiser, freer, or more autonomous, more likely themselves to become servants. Now, servant leadership research suffers from ambiguous and conflicting definitions, but writers agree on these 3 points. First, natural desire or calling to serve others. Servants leaders have this natural desire or calling to serve others. This natural desire is a deep commitment to the growth of others for that purpose alone. It goes beyond the leader's role obligation to help others, and it's not merely an instrument to achieve company's objectives. Second, servant leaders maintain a relationship with others that is humble, egalitarian, and accepting. Servant leaders do not view leadership as a position of power. Rather, they serve without taking all the attention to themselves and without evoking this superior status I'm the leader, and without being judgmental about others or defensive of the violent criticisms they almost always receive. And third, servant leaders anchor their decisions and actions in ethical principles and practices. They think about the moral values, and in this respect, is common in find these kind of leaderships in the servant leadership in the religious people. In this respect, servant leadership relies heavily on the idea of being an authentic leadership. Servant leadership was introduced 4 decades ago, and it have been a lot of study on these following years, and it's particularly among practitioners and religious leaders who take this example to how lead. Servant leadership seeks to move management and personal interactions away from controlling activities. It's not used to have the control of the personnel. It's toward a more synergistic relationship. Now, the term servant leadership was coined by Robert Greenleaf, a 20th century researcher who was skeptical about the traditional leadership, who is always an authoritarian relationships between the employees and employees. According to Greenleaf's observation, the servant leader approaches situations and organizations from the perspective of a servant first, looking to lend their presence to answer the needs of the organization and others. Servant leaders seek to address also stakeholder wants and requirements as their priority, with leadership to be pursued secondarily. This contrasts with the leader first perspective, wherein a person aims to gain control, like I said, and they always want to quickly, often driven by the desire and prospect for material gain or influence. And this is totally the opposite. Servant leadership is a mindset that reflects a servant first mentality rather than a leader first mentality. Also, Greenleaf consider that leadership must first and foremost meet the needs of others, and that good leaders must first become good servants. Now, we will talk about servant leadership's pros and cons. Different leadership styles can these styles have their own advantages and disadvantages that make them a better model, depending on the context. And some of the advantages of servant leaderships are that leaders earn respect from their employees. Employees feel valued, and that management is looking out for their interest. And there is a shared vision. There is often greater trust among employees and leaders, and leaders consider their opinions of staff, which is likely to improve innovative efforts and individuals develop skills and can advance professionally in a supported environment. The disadvantages of servant leaderships are that few leaders have experience in this type of management. Adapting this style of leadership may require like difficult cultural change because they are so supportive to the team. So maybe it could be different to have change between them, and the decisions can take time, which can be detrimental in times of crisis. And a staff may be given more responsibility than they are able to carry. Now, there are pros and cons to any leadership style, I should say, and some styles are more suited to certain contexts. For example, in a military setting where precision, accuracy, and strict protocols are necessary, authoritarian leadership is required. And in less structured environments, such as research setting where teams innovate together, servant leadership is more suitable. Now, we will talk about the principles of servant leadership. The first principle is listening. Effective servant leaders don't just speak about listen to what their team has to say. They should gather observations and insight from all the team members. Servant leaders also understand the growth opportunities. The second one is empathy. Effective servant leaders care about their team on a personal level, and they understand that when their team feels happy and fulfilled in their personal lives or in the personal level, it contributes to success in the professionals' lives as well. Healing as the number 3. Effective servants leaders understand the importance of fixing problems before moving on to the new goals and projects. For example, if a team may have suffered a setback in a team disagreement, to face the new challenges of that in that team, the team needs to be able to heal and come to an agreement first, and then they can continue to work to do it like properly. And servant leaders make sure their team has the knowledge, the support, and all the resources to do their jobs efficiently and effectively. Number 4, self-awareness. Effective servant leaders are aware of themselves and their teams. And self-awareness is the ability to look at yourself, think deeply about your emotions and behavior, and also consider how they affect the people around you. So this tool helps the leaders to learn after the problems they have and do it better later. Persuasion is the number 5. Effective servant leaders guide a pursued team's member, where an authoritarian leader, as we said, might tell some members what to do. A servant leader tells them why it's the best method or process or the best way to do things, but they seek to convince them, convince the team as a whole and build a consensus. Number 6 is conceptualization. Effective servant leaders can think beyond small tasks and communicate larger goals and why they are important to their teams. They help their team understand their roles and stay motivated while at the same time focusing on the company's long-term objectives and goals. Number 7, foresight. Effective servant leaders understand the importance of learning from past, as I said, mistakes and successes, and using lessons learned to productively evaluate the future decisions. They also use tools like SWOT analysis to evaluate the situations and the environment and the SMART goals to plan ahead. The number 8 is stewardship. As a steward of their company's assets and goals, these leaders work hard, arrive on time, they are dependable, they lead by example, which is super important. They demonstrate the values and the behaviors that they want to see in others. Number 9 is commitment to grow. Effective servants leaders motivate their teams to grow. They are committed to helping their teams and develop professionally. They are not just looking for themselves. Number 10 is building community. Effective servant leaders encourage collaboration and engagement within their organizations, and they value the opinion of everyone on their team and encourage them to share those opinions and to actively contribute to their team regularly. Now, we will show a good example of servant leader, and I would really like to watch this video that is really, really good.
My brothers and sisters from the city of Cleveland, I'm so happy to see you this afternoon. You're sounding enthusiastic, and I believe you are committed to this movement to make freedom and justice a reality. The world in which we live is geographically one. Challenge that we face today is to make it one in terms of brotherhood. After we've discovered our life's work, we should set out to do that work so well that the living, the dead, or the unborn couldn't do it any better. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. It isn't by size that you win or you fail. Be the best of whatever you are. But recognize that he who is greatest among you shall be your servant. That's a new definition of greatness. By giving that definition of greatness, it means that everybody can be great. Because everybody can serve. You only need a heart full of grace. Soul generated by love.
Dr. Martin Luther King assumed a leadership role in the civil rights movement and chose to champion a non-violent approach. And he fought hard for social justice and sacrificed his own life, not for like accolades or personal gain, but because he wanted to help others. And in doing so, Dr. King modeled servant leadership for all aspiring leaders that came after him. Now, I will show you some examples of servant leadership in business. The first example is FedEx. They have a philosophy of the Believer and People First philosophy, and people service profits is one of their mottos. And the servant leadership example takes the idea that constructing a positive working environment for employees will cause them to provide better service to customers and thereby causing customers to repeatedly utilize FedEx portfolio of products. They also have a recognition and reward program that it also is part of their philosophy. Now, Nordstrom uses the inverted pyramid that is so interesting. This concept involves placing salespeople at the peak of importance at an organization and with the management at the bottom, supporting their efforts. And these servant leadership examples hypothesize that the people interacting with the customers are the most important to business success, and therefore they need to be empowered by those above to their jobs in the best possible environment. Now, just a few points interesting about how to become a servant leader. You should lead by example, because a servant leader should always lead, be willing to do anything that you, like a leader, ask your team to do. The second is show people why their job is important. And you should try to make sure your team members know why the work they do is important and how their work directly affects the company's overall success. The number 3 is encourage collaboration and employee engagement, because servant leaders are also great at making their teams feel their voices and opinions matter, and this can motivate your team to put forward their best effort to produce higher quality work. Also, help your team grow and develop, and you can encourage team members to take active leadership roles during group projects. If they know you are committed to their professional growth, they are more likely to listen to suggestions to help improve their work as well. Care for your team members personally. Another thing you can do to become a servant leader is to show your team members that you care about them on a personal level. Being empathetic and trying to offer advice when you can help also creates a more positive work-life balance for your employees and help them cope with personal stress better. Also, ask for feedback. Finally, to try make your team members feel empowered to come to you with suggestions at any time, and regularly ask for feedback from those who don't naturally provide it. So this is really important. Now, this is the references that I used, and thank you so much for your attention, you all. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be here to answer.